Harry is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The business news headlines is brought to you by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible. Cybersecurity confidence, a legal victory for climate, and new trade tensions on the horizon. Hello and welcome to CBX Business News for Wednesday, July 23, 2025. I'm Yunil Wood. Thanks for joining us. Coming up locally, the Jamaica Stock Exchange confirms its systems remain secure amid allegations of data disclosure. On the regional front, a landmark International Court of Justice ruling bolsters the Caribbean's push for climate accountability and justice. And on the global stage, the European Union threatens to impose 30% tariffs on $117 billion of U.S. goods if trade talks collapse. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after our first break.
If it were not for the Jamaica Stock Exchange listing, Phosphate Company Limited would not be where it's at today. I called them, they listened to my concerns and my fears, and they gave me the answers. All the fears I had about banks, about losing control, you are having them. And I tell you, they were dissipated when I spoke to the Jamaica Stock Exchange. This is one of the best decisions I have ever made in business. If you want to change the trajectory of your business and to grow, make that call today to the Jamaica Stock Exchange. You will be glad you did.
Hi, I'm Nielsen Rose, host of Let's Talk Stocks, reminding you that health is indeed wealth and time is really money. Why not spend a little time with us? Weekday mornings, 9 to 9:30 a.m. for your daily dose of business, economic, and investment insights.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the QMAX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why QMAX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited has been a part of Jamaica's manufacturing landscape for over 20 years. By crafting unique flavors and fragrances, we have become a part of your favorite household and food items such as beverages, ice cream, household cleaners, and much more. Known throughout the Caribbean for the highest quality, we continue to innovate with strong leadership, a dedicated team with integrity. We go the extra mile for our customers. Create the next taste sensation. Contact us at 876-9235-111 or visit our website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn pages.
We get it! We get the big contract! 50,000 units a month for 3 years! Great! We need help.
If you are a business owner that requires capital for the expansion of your business, talk to a registered broker today to find out more about listing your company on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, an efficient alternative to other financing options.
Thank God for the Jamaica Stock Exchange Junior Market.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange, providing a fair, efficient, and transparent stock market.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances. It started out as a small family-owned business, and now we're a part of a large group of companies. Being listed on the stock exchange allows us a certain prestige. It also speaks to accountability and transparency. We had some fears about getting our information in the public domain, but once we contacted the Jamaica Stock Exchange, who have the knowledge and the experience to guide us, we were comfortable with getting into the process. If you have any doubts about being listed, just give the Jamaica Stock Exchange a call. They'll be very happy to take you through the process and also provide you with information that you may need. Make that call now.
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments. Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with an important update out of the local financial market. In a statement released on Tuesday, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE, has confirmed that there is no evidence of any compromise to its infrastructure or network, or any unauthorized or suspicious access to the personal data of an investor. The statement follows a report on July 13 alleging possible disclosure of personal and trading information relating to an individual investor. The JSE says the issue came to light through a media article and subsequent correspondence from the individual involved. In response, the stock exchange activated its internal incident protocols and launched a full-scale investigation, notifying the relevant broker in accordance with Jamaica's Data Protection Act of 2020. The exchange also sought to clarify that it processes investor data on behalf of brokers who serve as data controllers. Backed by cybersecurity experts, JSE's information technology team conducted a forensic review of all systems and found no evidence of any breach, suspicious access, or system compromise of the JSE's infrastructure or network. The exchange further reaffirmed its commitment to market integrity and data protection, noting that investor trust is paramount and it remains dedicated to working closely with brokers and regulators to keep personal and trading data safe. Digicel is moving forward with a sweeping refinancing initiative, launching new offerings of senior notes and lining up fresh credit facilities aimed at restructuring its debt stack. Earlier today, the telecoms group launched a US $1,550 million offering of senior secured notes due 2032. The notes will be co-issued by Digicel International Finance Limited, or DIFL, and DIFL US Limited Liability Company. Alongside that, Digicel is also offering US $415 million in senior unsecured notes due 2033, this time co-issued by Digicel Midco Limited, the indirect parent of DIFL and DIFL US 2 LLC. DIFL is further seeking to establish a new credit facility, which includes US $750 million in new 7-year first lien senior secured term loans and US $200 million in a new 5-year revolving credit facility, dubbed the DIFL Revolver. The secured notes and the new credit facilities will be backed by guarantees from Digicel Intermediate Holdings Limited, DIFL's direct parent, and certain DIFL subsidiaries. These will be secured on a first priority basis, subject to exclusions and agreed security principles. Notably, the new DIFL Revolver will hold payment priority on collateral proceeds if there's an event of default or insolvency. On the other hand, the new DML unsecured notes won't carry guarantees at the time of issue. Digicel says proceeds from the offerings, together with term loan financing and existing cash, will go toward repaying its current credit facility, fully redeeming US 9% senior secured notes due 2027 and 10.5% senior notes due 2028, and covering related fees and expenses. On a final note, Digicel says the newly issued securities will not be registered under the U.S. Securities Act and cannot be offered or sold in the U.S. without registration or an exemption. And strong gains in overseas shares boosted QWI Investments' performance during the third quarter ended June 2025. However, unrealized losses in the Jamaican portfolio moderated these gains, resulting in a profit before tax PBT of $48 million, slightly below the $52 million reported in the same quarter last year. QWI says the turnaround in quarter 3 significantly trimmed cumulative losses to $89.64 million from $137.64 million at the end of quarter 2, signaling a strengthened financial trajectory and improved performance. Over the 9-month period, the U.S. market rebounded after sharp declines in March. This recovery reflected cautious investor sentiment toward evolving global economic conditions, prompting selective positioning across asset classes. Meanwhile, QWI says the Jamaican market continued to exert downward pressure on overall portfolio performance. This is consistent with the seasonal pattern of June quarter pullbacks, typically occurring after the release of most first quarter earnings results by mid-May, as investors reassess exposure ahead of quarter 2 disclosures. This outcome underscores the strategic advantage of maintaining a diversified investment portfolio across multiple markets. Now, a more detailed look at the results in quarter 3 shows the overseas investments producing unrealized gains of $136.8 million, amounting to 19.2% of the portfolio, exceeding the rise in the Nasdaq Composite Index. Most of QWI's overseas portfolio is invested in large tech companies that have tended to be the best price performers in the USA in recent times. The company's Jamaican holdings underperformed, incurring unrealized losses of $67.5 million, representing 5.8%. This was mainly due to declines in shares of Dolphin Cove, Jamaica Broilers, Lasco Distributors, and Lasco Manufacturing, which all experienced notable share price losses in the quarter and accounted for almost all of its unrealized losses. Now to foreign currency trading news. At the end of currency trading on Wednesday, the US dollar is selling for $161.31, the Canadian for $118, and the pound sterling for $216.23. The going rate for the euro is $191.50. 36 cents. Next, we go to trading news from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. 99 stocks traded on the JSE Wednesday, of which 40 advanced, 39 declined, and 20 traded firm. Leading the winners were Paramount Trading, JFP Limited, Main Event Entertainment, and One Great Studio Company, while the losers were led by Jetcon Corporation, R.A. Williams Distributors, ISP Finance Services, and Berger Paints. The main index declined by 415.43 points, or 0.14%, to close at 305,151.47. The junior market index, however, advanced by 36.02, or 1.07%, to close at 3,414.50. And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard. Now, in our Market Education Feature, we'll be telling you a bit about the term feasibility study. A feasibility study is an assessment that evaluates the practicality of a proposed plan or project. It assesses whether the initiative is likely to succeed by examining its overall viability. Additionally, the study aims to identify possible challenges and obstacles that may emerge during the course of the project. As part of the feasibility study, project managers need to assess whether they have adequate personnel, financial resources, and technological capabilities to support the project. The study should also evaluate the expected return on investment, ROI, whether in terms of financial profit or broader societal benefits. It may include a cash flow analysis to compare revenue-generated cash against the project's operating expenses. Additionally, a risk assessment is essential to determine if the anticipated returns justify the potential risks involved in pursuing the venture. The Market Education Feature was brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards. And that's it for Market Education Feature and the end of the local segment. Please stay with us. The regional business news is up next. The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments. Welcome back. Now to news from across the region. Small island states in the Caribbean have gained powerful legal backing in their fight for climate justice, following a landmark opinion from the United Nations UN highest court that says countries which fail to meet their climate obligations could be in breach of international law. In a unanimous ruling delivered on Wednesday, the International Court of Justice, ICJ, affirmed that states must act urgently to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, uphold global climate agreements, and protect vulnerable populations from climate-related harm. ICJ President Yuji Iwasawa described climate change as an existential problem of planetary proportions and warned that a failure to act may constitute an internationally wrongful act. The court also confirmed that a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment is a human right, a decision expected to strengthen future legal claims from countries disproportionately affected by global warming. The opinion carries significant weight for small states seeking to hold major emitters accountable. While not legally binding, it paves the way for international and domestic lawsuits and may influence future demands for reparations or climate finance, especially in regions like the Caribbean that are economically and environmentally vulnerable. President Dr. Irfan Ali has unveiled the core pillars of the Global Biodiversity Alliance, placing strong emphasis on unlocking innovative finance mechanisms to drive nature-positive investments. Speaking before an international gathering of heads of state, investors, and conservation leaders at the opening of the Global Biodiversity Alliance Summit in Georgetown earlier today, President Ali identified innovative financing, including biodiversity credits, green bonds, and debt for nature swaps, as a key pillar of the Alliance's strategy to bridge the multi-billion-dollar global biodiversity funding gap.
The Alliance has 5 pillars. First, to advance the global goal of conserving at least 30% of land and oceans by 2030. Second, to embed biodiversity in national and corporate planning through measurable indicators. Third, to unlock innovative finance, including biodiversity credits, green bonds, and debt for nature swaps. Fourth, to empower indigenous peoples and local communities, the guardians of our nature. And fifth, to institutionalize monitoring and transparency through the Global Biodiversity Product and the Gross Biodiversity Power Index. Let us be clear, this is not just an environmental imperative, this is an economic revolution.
President Ali also highlighted the importance of the Global Biodiversity Alliance in driving action to protect the natural world.
We need a global biodiversity alliance because nature does not follow borders, and neither should our efforts to protect it. Nature is global, and so must our action be.
President of Guyana, Dr. Irfan Ali. In other news, ExxonMobil has entered preliminary talks with the government of Trinidad and Tobago, exploring the possibility of drilling in up to 7 deep water blocks off the country's east coast. The negotiations mark what could be a major return for ExxonMobil, 2 decades after exiting Trinidad and Tobago in 2003, following an unsuccessful exploration attempt. The areas of interest lie just north of the prolific Stabroek Block in Guyana, home to more than 11 billion barrels of recoverable oil and gas resources, discovered by Exxon and its partners, Hess and CNOOC. Production there is expected to approach 900,000 barrels per day later this year, cementing its role as one of the world's fastest-growing oil provinces. Back in Trinidad, the government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar, is aggressively courting new offshore investment to boost the gas output, critical to its LNG and petrochemical industries. Although a deep water auction is currently underway and set to close on September 17, the blocks Exxon is eyeing fall outside of that process. Under existing legislation, the government can negotiate directly for unlicensed acreage, opening the door for ExxonMobil to secure nearly all of the country's remaining ultra-deep water blocks if a deal is finalized. The move would not only strengthen Trinidad and Tobago's upstream portfolio, but also extend ExxonMobil's strategic dominance across the Southern Caribbean energy corridor. And still with Trinidad and Tobago, but this time trading news from the TTSE. 20 securities traded on the TTSE Wednesday, of which 5 advanced, 3 declined, and 12 traded firm. Leading the winners were Calypso Macro Index Fund, Scotiabank TNT, Republic Financial Holdings, and National Flour Mills, while the losers were Grace Kennedy, Guardian Holdings, and Trinidad Cement. Other results of the day include the All-TNT Index advancing by 2.72 to close at 1,460.49. The Composite Index advancing by 0.47 to close at 1,005.98. And the Cross-Listed Index declined by 0.27 to close at 72.76. And still at 96.08 is the SME Index. And we go for a short break, but please come back with us as Nielsen Rose is up next with our International Business News segment.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. In the international news today, U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday unveiled a sweeping new trade agreement with Japan, calling it the largest deal in history and a major win for the American industry. The deal includes 15% reciprocal tariff on Japanese imports, significantly lower than the previously proposed 25% rate. In a post on Truth Social, Trump stated that Japan has committed to investing $550 billion into the U.S. economy and will open its markets to a wide range of American exports, including cars, trucks, rice, and agricultural products. This is a very exciting time for the United States of America, Trump wrote, emphasizing the continued strength of the U.S.-Japan relations. The announcement followed a high-level meeting at the White House with Japan's chief tariff negotiator, Rose Akazawa, as reported by Japan's Ashanti Shimbun and confirmed by Reuters. Akazawa also held separate discussions with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Goldman Sachs and Bank of New York Mellon have partnered to enable institutional investors to purchase tokenized money market funds, CNBC reported. The initiative allowed clients of BNY Mellon, the world's largest custody bank, to invest in funds whose ownership is recorded on Goldman's blockchain platform. The project has already attracted major asset managers, including BlackRock, Fidelity Investments, Federated Hermes, and the asset management divisions of both Goldman Sachs and BNY Mellon. The move marks a significant step in the integration of blockchain technology into traditional finance, aiming to enhance transparency, efficiency, and settlement speed in funds transactions. The European Union is preparing to impose 30% tariff on 100 billion euros, approximately $117 billion worth of U.S. goods if trade negotiations with the United States collapse, and President Donald Trump follows through on his threat to levy similar tariffs on most EU exports after August 1. According to EU officials, the retaliatory package would merge two existing tariff lists, one already approved for 21 billion euros and another proposed for 72 billion into a single immediate response measure. Targeted U.S. exports include Boeing aircraft, American-made cars, and bourbon whiskey.
The move comes as EU member states, including Germany, adopt a firmer stance amid escalating trade tensions. Berlin has indicated support for activating the EU's anti-coercion instrument, ACI, in a non-deal scenario, which could pave the way for broader retaliatory actions such as new taxes on US tech firms and restrictions on American investments. Despite the preparations, EU leaders have emphasized their preference for a negotiated settlement. We are now approaching the decisive phase in the tariff dispute with the USA. We need a fair, reliable agreement on low tariffs, said German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The average contract interest rate for 30-year fixed-rate mortgages with conforming loan balances, $806,500 or less in the U.S. rose by 2 basis points to 6.84% in the week ending July 18, 2025, the highest in 4 weeks, compared to the 6.82% in the previous period, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. With the 30-year fixed-rate mortgages still too high to benefit many borrowers, refinance applications were down almost 3% for the week. A year earlier, borrowing costs were at 6.82%. Mortgage rates typically track Treasury yields, which climbed last week following strong economic data. And those were your international business stories. After the break, join Neil for your recap.
Welcome back, and now to recap our top stories. JSE confirms systems secure amid data disclosure allegations. Regionally, ICJ ruling strengthens Caribbean push for climate accountability and climate justice. And on the international scene, EU threatens 30% tariffs on $117 billion in US goods if trade talks fail. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of Nielsen Rose and the entire production team, I'm Neil Wood, thanking you for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.